welcome back to my channel, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to do a duplicate stitch. What is a duplicate stitch? It is creating a brand new stitch on top of your already knitted garment, item. You can use this stitch in so many ways. You can even use this stitch to patch holes. So if you've dropped a stitch and you've forgotten about it, you can use this concept in the same way to patch those holes. I use this technique in my current pattern out now in Homespun Knitters Beginners and Beyond. It's called the Straying Chevrons Table Runner and Coaster. It was so much fun to make this, and I use this technique in the coaster, which is actually reversible. So you can see here, one side shows off the beautiful tweed pattern in this yarn, and then on the other side you can see the chevron pattern made by the duplicate stitch. So let's get into it. You can check out the pattern now. I'll put a link in the description below. Let's get into it. To do the duplicate stitch, you're going to need 2 types of yarn, a darning needle, and some stitch markers. I like to use the darning needle, as I've talked about in previous videos, with the hook. Not only is it really helpful on the circular knitting machine when you're, casting off, it is going to be very handy for this situation. If you are going to be making the Straying Chevrons coaster, you'll be needing this yarn. This is Tweed Dreams by Hobby. I'm going to be using this teal and the cream color. You want the V's to be going up, so you don't want like an arrow pointing up, I suppose. Your V, you want to be looking for the stitches that are the V. So make sure to know once you've cast off which end you cast on and which end you casted off. When you are working a duplicate stitch and you want to follow a certain pattern, it is actually a lot easier to draw it out on the page or on a page. So just count how many rounds or rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've put 10 there. And how many columns of stitches you've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've just done 11 because I've worked this on a 22 pin machine. I've just tried to draw out a little heart here, but as you can see here, I've marked which stitches I'm going to be using or making duplicate stitches over. And when I work from right to left, left to right. So I will go this way, up, this way, up, this way. So working like that. Some people do like to go up and down. Personally, I found my preference was to go right to left, left to right. To begin with, you are going to want to go through both layers. Come to the bottom. I'm just going to bring this through. If you can see here, I'm going to leave a decent tail. That will help me with weaving it in later on. This was the most confusing part when I was learning. I always thought you'd have to pick up the V legs of the stitch you want to cover. And that always confused me because that's not what you're doing. You're actually picking up the V legs of the stitch above. So I'm going to be covering this V here, but I'm actually going to be picking up these 2 legs. It's a weird concept, I know. Pull it through. Don't pull it too tightly. At least if you're using this yarn for this project, I found it's best to keep your tension loose. Just switch hands so you can see what I'm doing. As you can see here, I've actually covered that first V. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in to where I first came out and I'm going to move across to my next stitch and come up at the bottom of that V. Now you might need to pull the tail at the back just a little bit, just to get that tension going. So we'll do it again. I'm going to be covering this V here. So I've come up at the bottom of this V. I'm going to pick up the legs of the V above. We're going to pull it through. And then I'm going to come back down, and we'll go across one more just to show you once more, and then I'll show you how I move up the rounds or the rows. So you can see here that the stitches are starting to get covered. As you start to put your duplicate stitches on, it's going to be easier to see where you are and cross-check that with your graph. So I'll do one more just here. And if I just flip this over and show you, I'm only picking up that top layer. The only thing that should be coming through on the other side here is your tail. Now, if I want to go to the next row, and instead of going directly up, I want to go to this stitch here. So bring it up a bit closer. So here's the V I'm going to finish, but I actually want to come up to this one here. Go back in down the bottom, and where you want to come out, instead of coming out at the bottom of this V, I'm going to come up at the bottom of the V I want to cover next. The reason I'm saying V as well instead of stitch is I just want to try and help you ingrain in your head the visual. So hopefully that's not too confusing for you. So you can see here, I've come out at the bottom of this next row. This is the V that I'm going to be covering. So we pick up the legs of the V directly above it, same concept, and you're going to be working back towards the left. It's usually not this fiddly. I'm just trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to be coming out here. Another trick you can do while you're going along is, if you think your tension's getting a bit wacky, you can just kind of tug some of these V's to help bring the tension a bit looser or tighter as you're going along. So now you'll start to see what it looks like as you stack them. So again, picking up the legs of the V above the V I'm covering. And we're going to go back in to the same place we came out and coming out in the next V stitch. It's probably a smart idea to wind or weave these tails in before you do this. Now you might see here I've pulled it too tight. I'm just going to do that trick again. Just tug it, just to play around with the tension. And we'll keep going across. can see here that they're starting to stack up on each other and cover the teal color. So let's just say now I've reached the end of this yarn. Let's say I only have a little bit left. I find when you're making quite a lot of duplicate stitches, it's easier to work in shorter lengths. Otherwise, you can see I've been, you know, pulling the yarn through, and it can get tangled, as you can see, and a little bit fiddly. If you're working with shorter lengths, while you have to keep tying off more frequently, you actually work quicker. Sounds a bit flawed, but it works. So let's say, okay, I need to tie this one off and add another length of yarn in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off this stitch, but instead of coming out randomly, I'm going to come out back where my tail started. Make sure you come out exactly where it's sitting, okay? You flip it back over just to make sure you're happy with that tension. We're going to, I'm naughty and I haven't got any scissors near me, so I'm just going to snap that off. We're going to tie this in a loose knot. And then I'm going to hide this back in my work. The bonus of not working through both layers. So I want to find where they both are sticking out, go back into that point, making sure that I'm not picking up the other side here. Pull it all the way through. You can see here as I pull this, the knot shall just pop under the work. Done, hidden. And then I trim this bit off. And you can see here that the stitches are secured. Let me know how you go, and if you have any other questions, I'm absolutely happy to answer them and do another video if you need a little bit more help figuring it out. Duplicate stitch is a little bit fiddly as you start to do it, but the more you do it, it actually becomes quite easy. Just remembering that you're constantly making V's and you're always picking up the V above where you want your stitch to go.